साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णा चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्वलौकिक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिदंतोतितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्वसेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मद एक बंधु मद संगेन मद गुरुन मद महादन मद निष्ठारक मद भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधु तादाइन अति नीचो ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयोस्पुरः नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तनं हृदयन्त स्वभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Okay, so is the internet okay now? At least for the last couple of minutes. Yeah, okay. Okay, so let's hope that it stays fine. So thank you all so much for joining, and nice to see all of you. So today we're going to discuss the Bhagavatam Chatushloki, the four most important verses, the nutshell of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are in Canto 2, Chapter 9. And let's just review from text 31 and 32 we discussed. So we are going to review 31 and 32, and then we'll proceed with the Chatushloki. Right? So let's start with text number 31. So we already covered the Sanskrit and the translation, but maybe we can just review translations. So maybe someone can start by reading the translation for text 31. I don't think we have a
Hare Krishna. The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So basically here, so Brahma has already asked the four questions of the Chatushloki, right? And then in response to that, Krishna actually is speaking the first two verses, 31 and 32, is kind of a prelude to the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, right? And I mentioned this point last time, that how Vallabhacharya, he actually says not Chatushloki, he says Saptashloki, 7 shlokas, right? So he includes 31 and 32 in that. But our Acharyas Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhar Swami has said the main philosophical content is actually in the 4 verses. So they refer to that as the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Okay? So, right. So in this verse 31, what is Krishna actually saying? Jnanam, Vijnana, Sa Rahasyam, and Tad Angam. So 4 things he's going to say. for the Chatushloki. What is Jnanam? Jnanam is the most secret knowledge. So basically, what has Brahma asked? I want to know. First question of Brahma is, I want to know about your form, both spiritual and material. Okay, that is Brahma's first question. And in response to that, Krishna is saying that I will give you Jnanam. Jnanam means the most secret knowledge of my form. Right, so Krishna is going to talk about his form, and we discuss this in Bhagavad Gita. How Krishna says, "Parama Guhyam." To know about Krishna, to know the form of Krishna, is actually very confidential, and Krishna is going to reveal that. Okay, so that's Jnanam. The second one is Vijnana. Vijnana means realized knowledge. So not only Krishna is going to give the knowledge, but he's also going to give the realization of the form of Krishna. Right, so that is Vijnana, and this is actually the Chatushloki, the second of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So Jnanam is CS1. I'll just refer to CS as Chatushloki. So CS1 is Jnanam, and then Vijnana is CS2. Sa Rahasyam. What is the most confidential of all topics? That is actually Prema Bhakti. So that is going to be our CS3, Chatushloki 3. And then the Tad Angam. Tad Angam will actually refer to Sadhana Bhakti, right? Which is CS4. So I mentioned this point that how in Bhagavad Gita, Chatushloki, that also explains Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana, right? So similarly here also we'll see the concept of Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. What is finally a Prayojana? What is the highest goal? Krishna Prema. That Prema Bhakti. So that is Chatushloki 3. That is Sa Rahasya, right? Then what is the Abhideya? What is the process by which we can actually attain that final Prema Bhakti? That is Sadhana Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti will be Chatushloki 4. Right? Now, Chatushloki 1 and 2 will give you the Sambandha Gyan. So first one talks about Krishna's form, material and spiritual. And the second one talks about Krishna's Maya Shakti, both Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. Okay. So up to this point, everyone is okay? So 4 questions. What are the 4 questions? What is the Lord's forms? Okay, let me share my screen so you can see it on the screen there. Okay, so you can see here. Go back. Yeah. So question number 1, what is the, please tell me about the material and the spiritual forms of the Lord. So that is answered in Chatushloki 1. That's 2.9.33. Then the Lord's energies, how are the various spiritual and the material energies working? That is basically the Lord's Yoga Maya, that is spiritual energy, and Mahamaya, that is material energy. And that is going to be Chatushloki 2. Right? And then third question of Brahmaji, what are your activities in relation to the material and the spiritual energy? That is going to be Chatushloki 3. Right? And then the fourth one is the mercy for the Lord's service. So Brahma has actually said, yes, you have given me this entire task of creation. And the question, Brahma actually makes this point that, please tell me a way that I can perform this task of creation without any pride and without any false ego. So please give me that instruction. So that is basically Sadhana Bhakti, and that will be Chatushloki 4. Okay. And if you see text 31, he talks of Jnanam. Jnanam, most secret knowledge of my form, that is CS1. Then Vijnana, realization of that form, CS2. Sa Rahasyam, Prema Bhakti, CS3. And Tad Angam, Sadhana Bhakti, CS4. Okay? Everyone okay up to this point? So before we start, I do want to make okay, so I'm back now. Sorry, my internet connection is stable. It's unstable. Can you hear me okay? So please point out if the voice is, if you're not able to hear. Okay, okay. So everyone ready to start? Right? Okay, so text 32 is also a prelude, and basically here, someone can read the translation to 32.
Hare Krishna, all of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy.
So Krishna is actually saying that I'm going to tell you about my form, right? Rupa. Then I'm going to tell you about my guna, about my activities, about my colors, like different colors of Krishna's incarnation. And I am going to let all be awakened within you by factual realization. So Krishna is saying that not only I'm going to give you a knowledge, but with that I'm going to give you the realization of that knowledge. Let that knowledge be awakened in the core of your heart. Right? So that is the second. So Prabhupada in his purport points out the secret of success to actually understand the intricacies of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the causeless mercy of the Lord. Unless the Lord actually gives us His causeless mercy, we cannot actually understand the form of the Lord. We may read Shastra, but without the causeless mercy, we will actually not understand the Lord. So Krishna is saying that I'm going to give you the four knowledge, the four verses of Chatushloki, but with that, I'm going to give you the actual realization of my form. So that is the second of the prelude verses. Now 33, we start on with the Chatushloki. Okay. So Ratnaladika, can you put up the list? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and you can start text 33.
Aham eva samevagre nanyat sat asaram paschat aham tat etata yo vashishyeta so sam.
Translation Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so how many times does aham come in this verse? 3 times Krishna is actually using the word aham. And our acharyas say when Krishna is actually talking to Brahma and when he's saying this verse, what is he actually doing? He's touching his forefinger to his chest and saying, I, aham, I am that person, right? So he's actually saying, aham, I, evasam evagre. It is I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eva means certainly or only. It is only I who actually existed before the creation. Okay, that is the first line. Aham evasam evagre. Certainly it is I only who actually existed before the creation. Right? Nanyat yat sat asat param. There was nothing but myself, neither the material creation, sat asat, neither the cause of the material creation. Even that was not there. Only I existed before the creation. Right? Then pashat aham yad cha etat cha. After annihilation, what remains will also be I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then the last line, yo vashishyeta so pya aham. Again, he uses the word aham, right? That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead. Now, one may say, like, okay, Krishna is making this point that he actually exists. Krishna is pointing his forefinger to his chest and saying, I existed before the creation, I exist after the annihilation, and right now, who you are seeing is also I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So, first point here is that Krishna's existence is beyond the influence of past, present, and future. Right? The influence of time does not affect Krishna. Krishna is always present, right? Eternally present. Before annihilation, before creation, he's there. Maintenance is there. Annihilation. After annihilation, he remains. Okay. Now let's see what is the depth of this verse, right? So Srila Prabhupada and our Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives elaborate purports to this Chatushloki. And before we go into the depth of the discussion, I want to warn you that this is quite philosophical. So be ready for that intense philosophy here. Okay. Now the first point. Okay, first point here that's been explained is Prabhupada in his purport is actually making the point that when Krishna is saying it is I, right? I existed. Can someone challenge that, like the impersonalists may challenge based on the theory of oneness, that I actually refers to Krishna and Brahma. It actually refers to I as everything here, right? So first section of the purport. So we'll divide the purport into different sections because otherwise it's difficult to follow what is the point that Srila Prabhupada is actually trying to make, right? So first point here is Prabhupada is defeating the theory of the impersonalism, where someone may say that the I actually refers to everything, I, Brahma, and everything that included is that I principle. Like, and someone could say that I, when Krishna is saying I, includes Brahma, it includes Shiva, it includes the demigods. Everyone is I, right? Okay, so there's nothing more than the principle of I. Someone can say that, right? But even if we accept this, that okay, you're saying that everything is I, like what do the impersonalists say? Everything is Brahman, right? Everything always exists, right? There's no separation between us and Krishna. It's all the same, right? So Prabhupada is saying, even if we accept this principle of I, still we can make that, we can see that there's a difference between the creator I and the created I, the predominated I, or predominator I, and the predominated I, right? So if everything was I, why is Brahma even asking this question to Krishna? Why is that a creation of Brahma from Krishna? Right? So that already says that there's a difference between the two I's. One is the original I and one is the created I. Right? And then Prabhupada quotes this verse, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Right? What does that verse say? Nityo Nityanam. So there are so many Nityas, but there is one Nitya who is actually special, who is different from all the other eternals. Chetanas Chetananam. There are so many conscious beings. I am conscious, you are conscious, and sometimes Krishna is conscious. So many conscious, yet there is one supreme conscious being. And Eko Yo Bahudat Vidadati Kama. And it is that one. So there's a difference between one and the plural I. And it is the one who's actually maintaining all the other I's. Right? It is Krishna who's actually maintaining all the other. So clearly, even if you see this verse of Nityo Nityanam Chetan Chetanam, that is the singular I and the plural I. And the singular I is actually maintaining all the other I's. So certainly there is a difference between that one prominent I and the other predominated I's. Right? So that is the first point here. So Prabhupada gives an example. If you consider a father and a son, the son may say, I and my father, we are the same. Is that true or false? Well, someone may say it is true because you are in the same, same family, right? I came from a father, so we are the same, right? Yet there is a difference. I can say I was created because of my father, but father cannot say that the son is the cause of his creation. There's a difference. Right? So this difference between the two I's, created and creator, right? So, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he actually gives so many quotes. If you see his commentary, this is the first point that he establishes, and he quotes different parts of the Shastras. I'll just give you a few quotes here. So he starts off by quoting, okay. So he says, like, how the Shrutis, they actually make this point, that it is Vasudev who existed previous to the universe, and Brahma and Shiva did not exist. This is from the Shrutis. It says, Vasudeva va idam agra as. Hare Krishna, sorry. Okay, so let me know if my voice is, you're not able to understand my voice. Okay, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is quoting this verse, where it actually from Shruti it says, Vasudevo va idam agra asin na brahma na cha shankara. if someone is saying that, oh, Brahma, Shiva, everyone, I refers to everyone, then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is clearly saying that this verse from the Shruti says that it is only Vasudeva who existed and not Brahma, not Shiva. Na Brahma, na cha Shankara, not Shiva. So Krishna is that original supreme, right? And then he says, Purusha ha vai Narayana, the Lord is Narayana. Eko ha vai Narana asit. Narayan only existed prior to this creation, right? Eko Narayana asin na Brahma na Sheshanaha. Narayan alone existed. Brahma and Shiva did not exist. This is from Maha Upanishad. And Bhagavatam 3.5.23, he actually quotes and he says that it was only Bhagwan who actually existed before the creation, when the desire to create the bodies of the jivas was actually absent. So many references Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving to actually explain this point, right? So again, we see, if you see this entire episode, right, we see that how when Brahma, when he was created, when he was on the lotus flower, and how there was darkness, then what happened? He heard the word tapa, tapa twice. And who actually spoke that word? Later on, we see how Krishna, when he speaks to Brahma, he says that it was I who actually spoke the word tapa, tapa twice to you, right? And later on, when Krishna came to Brahma, what did he do? He came and he shook Brahma's hand. And he says, Bhadram te, all the best. I am original creator, you're secondary creator, now you do the task of creation, right? So if you see this entire episode, it is that person that
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sometimes if you stop the video, it helps.
Okay, let's see. Maybe Radharika, maybe you can turn off your video or just join me here.
Maybe quick restart of the router, Prabhuji, internet.
It was okay, it's been working. It says the connection is good on the router also.
Okay.
No, the problem is on Zoom. They are having a lot of issues on Zoom.
Oh, really? It could be.
Yes, ma'am. It's on news. So
okay, we have to make the best use of a bad bargain. So we'll just try our best. So if you are not able to understand, then you can just let me know, right? Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So if you see this entire episode, Krishna has personally spoken the words to Brahma. He's personally come. He shook Brahma's hand, and now he's personally answering Brahma's question. So where is that question of impersonality? Everything, there is a personal exchange between that I, Krishna, and the I as Brahma, right? So there's difference between the predominator and the predominated, right? So the form of Krishna always exists. He is a person, and there is an interaction between the two I's. Right? Okay, that's the first point. Is that okay? It's basically like, why are we discussing all these philosophical points? Because someone can take the Chatushloki and explain it in an impersonal way. Prabhupada talks about this later on in the purport. But to defeat that impersonal explanation, it is important that because this Chatushloki is the nutshell of the entire Bhagavatam, it has to establish that Krishna is the supreme personality, person. He is that person, he is the supreme person. It has to establish. So if you see the Sambandha Gyan, which is actually being given here, even in this verse, you see, who is I? I as spirit soul is who? I am predominated, and Krishna is my predominator. Right? So see, even in this first verse, the point that we say, Jivera Swarup hoy, Krishnera Nitya Das. That is being established here. Right? So you have, that's why the point is actually emphasized to actually point out the two eyes, because when there are the two eyes, then there is a question of service, there is a question of love, there is a question of devotion. Okay, so that's the first point. Now, second point in the purport, Prabhupada actually says, what does I mean? Right. So Krishna is pointing to his chest and saying, I existed. But does that I mean only Krishna? What does that I actually include? Now, if you see in Nectar of Devotion, when Rupa Goswami gives the definition of devotional service, what do you say? Anya Bhilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktirutam. Right? So, what is devotional service? It is like free from any other desire other than desire to please Krishna. Jnana Karma Anavritam, it is free from the coverings of Jnana and Karma. Then Anukulena Krishna Anushilana. Krishna. Right? The word Krishna is clearly there in that verse. But does that Krishna include only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Does that mean that if I am rendering service to my spiritual master, that is not devotional service? Does that mean that if I am worshipping Tulsi Maharani, that is not devotional service? What does that I actually include? Right? So even in that verse, Rupa Goswami makes the point. When we say Krishna, that Krishna includes Krishna himself along with his associates and his Vaikuntha planets, his spiritual world, everything's included in that I. Right? So the second philosophical point here is when Krishna is saying I, existence of the personality of Godhead implies existence of the Vaikuntha planets, implies existence of the name, the form, the quality, the paraphernalia, the activities of the Supreme Personality of God. I includes everything. Right? So, to give an example, now I tell you, look out of the window, the king is walking. The king is walking by. What would you expect to see? Or anyway, we don't expect there's no king now. But let's say the president, right? We say, oh, the president is walking by on your street. Now we don't expect to see the president just like alone walking, and just walking down the street. When we say president, immediately we'll consider if he is there, for sure there'll be security guards protecting him. We may not see if we see the security guards, but for sure that is his whatever they call it, black commando team. They're always there protecting the president. Right? And then normally when you say president, there'll be a whole entourage. There'll be his car, then the minister's car. Everyone is there together. So Prabhupada gives this example, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also is giving the example, that when we say that the king is going, the king is never alone. We always see there is someone who will be fanning the king, there will be someone who will be holding an umbrella for the king is never alone. So similarly, when we say Krishna is saying I includes Vaikuntha planets, devotees, name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and activities of the Lord. These are all eternal, including the activities, like Krishna lifting Govardhan hill. Now, if we don't include the activity of Krishna, right, as something that is eternal, then someone may say, yes, Krishna appeared 5,000 years before, he lifted Govardhan hill. Now we are discussing about Govardhan Leela, but that discussion, if it is not eternal, then that is temporary. The temporary means is of this material world. Hence, discussion of the Govardhan Leela is actually not bhakti. It's not eternal activity. Why are we discussing the activities of the Lord then? Right? So that I has to include even the activities of the Lord. Right? So if you see a second part of the purport, Prabhupada is actually explaining about how all of these, like each one of these Vaikuntha Lok, so he starts off with Vaikuntha planets, and he actually gives 2 points to this. And he says that, in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna establishes that Vaikuntha planets are of Sanatan nature. They are eternal, right? That itself says eternal means they are beyond the conception of time. Second point that Krishna actually said, that when Brahma was receiving that realization, the darshan of Krishna, Krishna actually showed him the Vaikuntha planets. If the Vaikuntha planets were not eternal, why would Krishna, after being pleased by Brahma, show him the Vaikuntha planets? Right? So both these points actually prove how the Vaikuntha planets are actually eternal. So that I actually includes Vaikuntha planets. Then second, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives an example of how the devotees, the associates of the Lord are also eternal. Right? When we talk of Krishna, Radharani, the gopis, the gopas, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, they are eternal associates. And when Krishna comes down to the material world, all these eternal associates, they come along with Krishna. Right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a quote. All the, like his entire explanation is filled with quotes from the different Upanishads and Shastras to prove the point that how all of these are eternal. So second point is the associates of the Lord are eternal. Third point, activity, right? So activity in relationship to that, Brahma is actually, Prabhupada actually explains, and he says how in the previous verse, Krishna actually said in text 32 that I will actually reveal my activities, karmanaha. He clearly uses the word karmanaha, saying I am going to reveal my activities onto you with realization, right? And that itself proves that the activities of the Lord are not mundane. Right? So that's the first point. And then the explanation is actually given that the king may not be seen in every government office, but everything is actually happening by the will of the king. So just like here, we are seeing the sun is rising, the sun is setting, all these things are happening. And the atheist will say, where is God? Who is doing this? It is all by the laws of nature, right? They will just say that. But we know that behind all this is the hand of Krishna. Krishna has designed this entire system, right? So just like, like you go to, like, let's say the DMV office, right? You go to the driver's license office. There are certain laws there, right? But someone may say, I don't see the president in the DMV office. Naturally, you won't see the president in DMV office. Why? Because he is actually in the White House, he's doing his thing there. But his laws are still in place in the DMV office, right? So when Brahma is asked the question, explain to me the spiritual and the material form, through this point about the activity, also the material form of Krishna is explained in terms of his pervasive nature. How in the DMV office, the law of the president is still there. Similarly, in the material world, the laws of Krishna are still active. So Krishna is present in the material form within this material nature. So the activities of Krishna in relationship to Brahma, right, in relationship to the demigods, that is also the activities which are actually under the direction of Krishna himself. Right? So if you see in our Shastra, in our Bhagavatam, how many times have we already discussed the Virat Rupa? Let's see who can actually point out. Up to this point, up to first canto and second canto, how many times have we talked of Virat Rupa? So one is certainly in the second canto, starting first chapter, like first realization of God. Right, that is Virat Rupa. Then also in 2.5, when you talk to the entire creation, that chapter ends with Virat Rupa. Now we'll see even the next chapter, it will end with Virat Rupa. So again and again throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, we are seeing this description of Virat Rupa. Why? Why are we seeing this? Because this is actually making the point of how the Lord is actually acting within this material world. And that is actually answering Brahma's second question of what is the material form of the Lord. Like first question where Brahma is asked, what is the spiritual and the material form? So the material form is actually also explained. Now the other point is the form of the Lord also eternal? Like Brahma, Krishna is showing one particular form to Brahma, but is that form eternal? Or is that form, to Brahma, he's showing one form and then he'll show another form. And that form, just like Virat Rupa, is that temporary? No, that form is also eternal, right? So to prove that, Prabhupada actually gives the example. He says the sun, right? At the night, the sun is not visible. But does that mean that the sun is not there? No, the sun is there, right? We cannot see it. So similarly, Krishna is always there. He is eternally present as Shyamsundar Krishna with his different incarnation. But we cannot see it because he actually appears in Yuga Yuga. In particular Yuga, he actually manifests himself and so on. Okay, so this is the second point, right? So what was the first point? Okay, maybe you all should speak because it's philosophical, so it's good if someone else can explain. What was the first philosophical point for this verse?
Beating the impersonalism. No? So,
Right. Okay. Go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah, so
What does the I include? Oh, go ahead, Max.
go ahead, Mataji, please.
No, after you.
Okay, Vijay Mati, continue. Yes.
So there is a creator I and the created I. Both are different.
Right? So why are we discussing that first point? Because when Krishna says aham evasam evage, that aham I is actually, someone may say I refers to everything that exists, including Brahma. But no, to defeat the impersonalism, we have two I's there, right? Okay, Arundhati Mataji.
Yeah, then we spoke about what does the I include. It's not just the Lord, but his pastimes, his paraphernalia, the pure devotees of the Lord, his activities, etc. That was included.
Okay, so these are two philosophical points. Now, third point is again going on, and Prabhupada says sometimes it is said that only the Brahman actually existed. When Krishna is saying aham, he is actually referring to Brahman. That he is not referring to the Supreme Personality. So, third point in the purport, you'll see Prabhupada defeats this point, and he actually says that how Krishna, who is actually the source of Brahman, right? Krishna having form and qualities, has already been expressed in the last few verses. So, how can we say that now Krishna has all of a sudden changed and said that aham is actually referring to the impersonal Brahman? He's already personally appeared in front of Brahma. He's talked about that, oh Brahma, I am going to tell you about my form, my rupa, with realization. Then how would Krishna all of a sudden just switch and say, okay, now I'm going to talk of impersonal Brahman? So that I actually refers to Krishna as the source of the impersonal Brahman. And some scriptures may say that, okay, may focus that, okay, the highest is impersonal Brahman. But that is not the fault of the scriptures. That is because the readers are not qualified to actually appreciate the qualities of the Lord, and hence it actually talks only up to the impersonal Brahman realization. Right? Okay, so that's the other point. And also, Prabhupada elaborates that how the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, that is the immediate cause of everything. What we are seeing in this material world is actually, it is the Lord's energies, the Brahma Jyoti, which is actually manifested and making things happen. So Brahma Jyoti is actually the immediate cause. But who is the ultimate cause of everything? That is actually Krishna himself. Right? Krishna is the original cause of everything. So hence Prabhupada concludes, he quotes from Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Clearly in 14th chapter, Krishna says what? I am the source of that impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Right? And okay, now another very interesting point here. So Prabhupada is actually saying, yes, we talk of the Lord is both impersonal and personal, but here the aham is actually talking of the ultimate realization. And how do we know that? Another point that Prabhupada said, that it is only Krishna who was pleased by Brahma's austerities is now coming and speaking to Brahma. That means what? If someone is feeling pleasure, that means it's not just an energy, it is a person who is actually being pleased by a relationship or by a service. Right? So again, that refers to Krishna himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, even in that impersonal, when the last line of this verse actually says what? Yo vashishyeta sopya aham. Right? So, how is Krishna manifested in this material world? Through his impersonal form, through the material form in one way, through the Virat Rupa, is actually manifesting in the material world. But how are devotees supposed to see Krishna? Are they supposed to see the impersonal aspect of Krishna, or should they see the personal aspect of Krishna? So when Krishna is actually telling Brahma, and it is I, right now, it is I who is standing in front of you. Krishna is actually telling that now Brahma, when you actually do the task of creation, see me, the personal form, in every aspect of the creation. You see the point? So in this material world, everything is happening. Whatever is happening is through the energies of the Lord. But should we just connect to the energy? No, we should connect to the source of the energy, because Krishna has again said to Brahma what? Aham. It is I only who is standing right now in front of you. So Brahma, while you're doing your creation, you just try to find that I, that personal I, in this entire creation. So one should be attached to the root cause of everything and not be bewildered by the branches, leaves, and the other energies of the Lord. Okay, so if you consider, okay, now, so that is basically Prabhupada's purport here, right? I'll make another point, which is actually, it's a nice comparison. Like if you see in the other religions, right, in Christianity or in Muslim religion, they actually make the point that God is totally different from this world, right? And hence, no material form or energy can actually represent God. Right? So even in Muslim, they actually say, oh, or in Christianity or Muslim, like both, we'll just say Abrahamic religions. In both of these, they actually say, as soon as you actually have a form of a Lord manifested through, like, let's say, we call a deity form, right? Krishna is manifested a deity. They said that is not right. They don't accept that. They say it is idol worship. Why? Because they say, how can the Lord be manifested through material elements? The Lord is totally different from this material world, and hence no material energy can actually represent the Lord. But what is our understanding? No, the Lord is so merciful, He manifests through material energies, and then that material energy is no longer material, but it becomes spiritual. We come to a temple, we see the form of Shri Shri Radha Golokananda. We don't say this is marble. Right? Pratima Nai to me, Sakshat, Brajendra Nandan, you are yourself Krishna. Right? And the holy name, someone is chanting the holy name, and someone will come and say, holy name, it is only sound vibration. Like you are speaking so many things. In that way, you are speaking the holy name. How can the holy name be completely spiritual? So in other religions, they do not accept that how the Lord can actually manifest through this material energy. But the holy name is, yes, one way it is sound vibrations. And if you see in the material creation, sound is created from where? Ether. So someone may say that's material. No. It is the Lord who is manifested the spiritual sound through the sound, through the ether or through the sound. This is completely spiritual. Right? We accept that. Right? So in other religions, they don't accept. But in this verse, when Krishna is actually saying, Aham evasam evagre, he's actually saying, I existed before, and even in maintenance, it is I who actually enter into the maintenance through the energies, and it is I who is actually maintaining this entire thing. And hence the Lord can actually enter into this material elements and actually show his original spiritual form. And a devotee, through all these material energy, is to find that supreme I, the personality of God. Okay, so this is the first verse of the Chatushloki. Okay. So there's a lot in this verse, but I hope you could follow along the points. You can read the purport, but try to see it in terms of the 3 points that I told you, because otherwise you may get lost in what point Prabhupada is actually saying. 3 points is that I, concept of I, how does predominated I and predominator I, creator I. Second point is how I includes Vaikuntha planets, associates, activities, the form of the Lord. And third point is how I is not the impersonal Brahmajyoti, but it is actually Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of God. Okay. So let's take few reflections of anything that you heard or you wrote down in your notes. If you can quickly just repeat so that we all can get, because philosophy is always like, when it goes dense into philosophy, it is hard for us to digest. So maybe everyone can just quickly unmute and just say a few points that you remember, or any questions you may have up to this first verse, and then we'll move on to the text number 2.
The immediate cause is Brahmajyoti, and ultimate cause is Krishna behind the Brahmajyoti. People get confused that Brahmajyoti is everything. So this verse clears that there's a person behind the Brahmajyoti.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes. This is actually, for the impersonalist. If you meet an impersonalist and if you say, okay, because they may quote some part of the Shastra, you can say, okay, let's come to the essence of all the Shastra. You can bring them to the point of Srimad Bhagavatam and say, okay, Srimad Bhagavatam is also what? Let's come to the Chatushloki, the nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in that, okay, we won't go into 2, 3, 4. We just talk of verse 1. In verse 1, you can actually defeat that. Okay, thank you, bro. Anything else?
Yeah,
Prabhu, the
Prabhuji,
same sorry, Mataji.
go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead, Devinathan.
So, Prabhu, we were reading Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's Liberation in CC.
Yes.
And then there is chapter 6, 143 verse. Prabhupada has written a small purport. I want you all to, I'll share the purport. It is loaded with quotes proving that how Yasya Prabhava Prabhata.
Jagadanda Koti, yes, yes.
It like little small, but it is loaded. I think it is very, very relative. Like Krishna somehow helped me because I'm reading that chapter, and this verse is very.
Very nice, Mati. So that is what's the word?
Madhya 6.143.
6.143. Everyone can write the reference. Madhya 6.143. Thank you. Arundhati Mati, yes. Right.
Just saying the points, Prabhuji, what you thought of asking us to highlight, right? So for devotees, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is sound incarnation of the Lord, but for other religions, it's just a sound vibration, the way you look at it.
That's why,
Similarly,
that's why they don't
the deity worship. Yeah.
But we see how the Lord is actually manifesting through this. So they actually consider material world and Lord totally different. But we say no, the Lord is actually manifesting through this material. And for devotees, what is our perspective? Though we see the impersonal aspect or the material aspect of Lord in play in the material world, still we see the ultimate cause. We see that we try to find the personal hand of Krishna in everything.
One should be attached to the root cause of everything rather than to the branches and trees. I like that point at that end.
Okay. Yes. Anyone?
Prabhuji, I like the point, how you said that Krishna includes his associates also, the Guru, Tulsi Maharani.
Yes, very nice. Yes. So that and again I give the reference to that Anya Vilasita Sundam. That also Rupa Goswami says, when we say Krishna, Krishna includes all these different aspects. Okay. Ready for second Chatushloki? Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
One question. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, to Arjuna that, everyone else, in this battlefield existed, but here he says, none of them, it is before the creation I exist, but so how do we like normalize those two?
Right. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Na tva evam jatunasam, na tvam nemi jananiva." Right. It is neither nor you, nor I, nor all these kings, right, ever cease to exist. But there, Krishna is talking of the spiritual aspect, right? The Atma, right? Atma. And that he's actually saying, yes, all spiritual souls and he himself existed eternally. So there he's actually making the point of the eternal aspect of the spiritual self. That's the point. That he's not saying that, okay, there's a predominator and a predominated I. He's not come to that point. The emphasis of that section is just to make the point to Arjun that Arjun, the spirit soul, is actually eternal. And hence you should view the entire situation right now, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, not just from the relationship point of view, but more from a deeper spiritual aspect. Right? So that is the point there. Right? So Krishna is not going into the depth and saying, oh, at that point, I am the creator and you are the created. That comes later on, right? Krishna says, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. There in 15th chapter, Krishna clearly said, or in the section of devotional service, Krishna is clearly saying that I am the supreme, everything is coming from me. Mata Paratam Nanya Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. Right? So that reference comes later. But at that point in 2.11, Krishna is just establishing the eternal aspect of both him himself and all us living entities. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Prabhuji,
Yeah. Okay. Vijay Radhika Mati, go ahead, and then we can come to Venkat.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says, I am the taste in water. I am, like everything he says, creation and creation is also me. So that point was, I thought about that.
Yes. So when we actually, so what did Prabhupada say? When we drink water and we say the taste of water is Krishna, that is Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada says. Mhm. So at that time, we are not thinking, oh, this is just the material aspect of Krishna and he's actually manifested. Bhagavatam says 2.5. So first it is ether, and then from that, this element, and then water comes. We are not thinking that. We are thinking Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is so merciful. He has manifested. So we are seeing the personal form in the impersonal energies. So very nice point. Yeah. Venkat Prabhu?
Prabhuji, just to extend that Monananda Prabhuji's question, we were existed forever, right? Like we were not being created. The soul existed forever, right?
Yeah, soul exists yeah, soul is eternal, but not the bodily concept. Yes.
Right. Yeah, even the Brahma, Shiva, they were also existed forever,
No.
or they were being created.
They've been created. So that's why I quoted Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he actually quotes verse from the Shrutis, which actually says that it was only Narayan who eternally existed, neither Brahma nor Shiva.
Okay.
Mhm. So
But, what about the individual souls, bro? They existed forever, right?
they always exist, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
So is that okay, Mohan Prabhu, to your point?
Clear and
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, we always, I think, have a problem with understanding the position as being Brahma and Shiva and the Jivas who represent them. That is the difference that we always get confused about.
Yeah. That's
So
a good.
probably that's the confusion that.
So when here, see Krishna, when he's actually making the point, he's saying, I alone existed before the creation. Right? So when we talk of I, in that aspect of I, we are saying that Krishna's name, form, qualities, his activities, they are all eternal. Right? But now he's actually making a point that you, Brahma, you have been created. But now he's not saying that you, Brahma, your spirit soul has been created. The spirit soul is eternal. Right? So that is the whole concept of simultaneously one and different. So yes, one, we are all Krishna as energies. We are all part and parcel of Krishna. We have the qualities of Satchit Ananda like Krishna. But here Krishna is actually making a difference in relationship to the point of creation. That all the living entities here in this material world, they did not exist. Brahma and so on, they did not exist before the creation.
So Prabhuji, to clarify that, so Krishna is eternal, and spirit soul, as spirit soul, we all are eternal, including Brahma, but we are created in this material world. Right? We are given this material body. So so Brahmaji and I, we are all Jiva Tattvas. No? It's just that Brahmaji is an elevated soul. No?
Yes, the Brahmaji is also a Jiva Tattva. Yes. So the point is that Brahma's body as a creation, that actually is actually not, it did not exist before. See, even in that entire episode, when Brahma was on top of the lotus, before that, he was not existing. He was created from that lotus and he was born on that lotus. But before that, was Brahma present? No, Brahma was not. Was the spirit soul of Brahma there? Yes, that is always there. Okay, so Arundhati Mati, a question? And then we'll move on to text.
Yes, Prabhuji. Just for better understanding of mine. So yes, Supreme Personality of Godhead existing even before the creation, right? So I'm not talking about Shiva. What about Sadashiva, Prabhuji? That's always a different entity. That is, how do I understand?
So see, if you see Lord's associates, his devotees, and we already made the point that Lord's associates are also eternal. And in that we say what? Vaishnavam Yatha Shambhu. The topmost of all devotees is Lord Shiva. So even if you see, when we are talking of Sadashiva, then we talk of Sadashiva as an eternal associate of the Lord. So he is eternally existing. But the manifestation of Lord Shiva in this material world as Rudra, that comes and goes, with the creed.
Right.
Yeah. But as we are talking of Sadashiva, like even when you go to Vrindavan, you have Gopeshwar, Mahadev, right? That is a form of Lord Shiva who is eternally there. He's actually standing, at the door of the Ras Leela. So that is all with the eternal pastimes of the Lord. So that is the form as an eternal devotee of the Lord.
So eternal devotee means like eternal, like even the jivas are also eternally present forever, right?
Yeah, but we take, okay, so I think the next verse will actually answer your question about the difference between the eternal jiva and the eternal jiva accepting different temporary material forms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So let's go to text 2. And, if you still need clarification, we'll come back to it. Okay. So 34. Go ahead, Sanskrit.
Ritirtham yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha.
Okay, so
Rama,
what is the question we are is being answered in this verse? Let's just revisit the question. The question of Brahma is, how are your various spiritual and material energies working? Right? And if you see in the 27, we talked about how in this Brahma is talking about, please explain about your Mahamaya and about your Yogamaya potencies. Right? Yogamaya is the spiritual potency and Mahamaya will be the material aspect there. Okay. Okay, now go ahead, Vijayamati.
O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
It's amazing verse. It says, Rite Rartham Artham. Artham. The word is Artham. Artham means what? Value. Right? So it says Rite Artham Yet Pratiyeta. So that whatever appears to be of any artha or value, na Pratiyeta Chatmani, actually it has no value if it is not considered in relationship to Krishna. As soon as we take an object and we perceive that object without relationship with Krishna, what is that? That means that is the influence of Mahamaya. But as soon as you take a flower, let's take a flower, right? And you take a flower and say, oh, nice flower is for my enjoyment. Right? That is Maya. Take the same flower and say, oh, this is for Krishna's pleasure. I'm going to offer to Radha Golokananda. As soon as you see that object in relationship to Krishna, then it has value. If you see the object without relationship to Krishna, that is without value. Right? So that is Mahamaya and Yogamaya. Both the aspects are already discussed, right? Tad Vidyat Atmano Maya. And that you must know is my illusory energy. So both the Mayas, whether it's Mahamaya or Yogamaya, both of them are Krishna's energy. What is the proof of this in Bhagavad Gita? That the Mayas are Krishna's energy.
Devi
Esha Gunamai, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Mama Maya, Krishna clearly is saying, my Maya, right? Mahamaya. And then, which is that other verse? Naham Prakasa Sarvasa. Yoga Maya Samavita. Okay, that's one more. There's one more verse where Krishna actually talks about, which is that? I think 7th chapter. Anyway, it'll come to me. There's another verse where Krishna uses the word Yoga Maya and says even that Yoga Maya is actually mine. Right? So both Mahamaya and Yogamaya, Tad Vidya Atmano Maya, they both are actually Atmano. It is my Maya, right? Both Yogamaya and Mahamaya, and Yatha Ambasa Yatha Tamaha. Just like reflection appears to be in darkness. So in terms of Mahamaya, we can actually understand. Just like reflection appears to be in darkness. So when you actually consider 15th chapter of Gita, what is material world? It's a reflection. And if you see that reflection without connection to the actual object, then that is Maya. Right? Now, how do we understand this last line in terms of Yogamaya? So we'll come to that point. How Yogamaya can be actually considered as an energy that shows and hides different actually objects. So that will be the second part of this. Okay. Now the philosophical points here. So right. So the first part we already explained. So Prabhupada actually explains that in the previous verse, we have already concluded that Krishna is present at every stage of the cosmic manifestation. The appearance, sustenance, growth, interaction, deterioration, disappearance. Right? Any material energy goes through these phases. Right? It appears, it sustains, it grows, it interacts, it deteriorates, it disappears. But during all these six Sadvikar, these six transformations, Krishna always present, is always present. That is already established in the previous word. That means what? That everything that we are seeing that is going through the Sadvikar, they have a relationship with Krishna. Because it is Krishna who actually created all these. They may be going through this temporary transformation, but everything has a relationship with Krishna because prior to the creation, prior to this material world, who existed? It's only Krishna. So that means everything that's coming from Krishna has a relationship with Krishna, right? So whenever forgetfulness of this prime relation and whenever things are accepted as real without being related to Krishna, then that conception is Maya. So wonderful definition, right? Anything you are seeing in this material world as real, as Artha, without relationship to Krishna, that is your Maya. But is the object itself Maya? You know, sometimes we consider, in Bhagavatam it says, woman is Maya for man. But is actually woman Maya? No. For man, you can say woman is Maya, the other way also. But actually, it is not the object itself that is Maya. In the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Why does lust actually reside? Who knows this?
In the mind and senses.
And mind, senses, and intelligence. So Krishna is actually saying in third chapter, Krishna says what? Arjuna says, okay, karma yoga, wonderful. But still, even if people know that they should act in this way, still they actually do not, follow this principle. Like we know what is right for you, but many times we don't do what we know is right for us. Why? Krishna says, kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna, samudra. Because it is lust only, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy. That illusion that we are faced to, that is our lust, our desire to enjoy separate from Krishna. That is the illusion, right? And where is this illusion actually stored? It is actually within our own mind, our own senses, our own intelligence. So we can see in a Krishna conscious journey, something and some object before we came to Krishna consciousness was very attractive, but now it is not attractive. What is a good example can we give?
Gold, Prabhuji.
What is it?
Gold, Prabhuji.
Gold? Okay.
I would say Mataji's can comment.
So before Krishna consciousness, we are attracted to accumulating a lot of gold. But now we are seeing gold and say like, oh, now we can make nice jewelry. Okay, that is Venkat Prabhu's example. Okay, anything else?
Watching TV. Nonsense.
So TV itself is illusion unless you're using TV to watch Abhay Charan or something like that. But yeah, it's an object of yes. Okay, what else?
Hare Krishna. Eating, like only prasadam is more tasty. Before, everything else was tasty, but now there is no taste in other food.
Yeah. So like they were attracted to maybe something that was actually, now we don't even like, something we like, okay, let's take this example. Like before coming to Krishna consciousness, let's say some of them were actually eating meat, and then they were actually attracted to eating meat. And now, like, let's say you're traveling in a plane and then the person next to you, even if he orders, non-vegetarian food, and it is like so disgusting, it's like, oh, so horrible. So the object is the same. Before, maybe it was attractive, but now that same object is distasteful. We don't even want to go closer. We don't want to see it, you know. So the object itself is not Maya. It is our conception of the object, right? So that point has to be very clear. When we see that object without relationship to Krishna, that is our Maya. Okay. Okay. Now, second point. Mahamaya and Yogamaya. So Prabhupada gives excellent definitions for both of this, right? So he says Yogamaya, the right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship to Krishna is Yogamaya. The right conclusion of dovetailing everything in relationship to Krishna is Yogamaya, and Mahamaya, the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship with the Lord is Mahamaya. Right? Such excellent. He made a so exact and so precise definition. Right? So Yogamaya is the right conclusion of dovetailing, means using everything in relationship to Krishna. Mahamaya is the wrong conception of detaching a thing from its relationship to Krishna. Okay. Okay. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually elaborates, on these different aspects of Maya. What is the illusory concept that we jivas hold on to, right? So first point he actually says, okay, so first point he says, the identity of the self as being not connected to Krishna. As soon as we say that the self is actually independent of Krishna, that is Maya. So Prabhupada gives a whole list. He talks of like all different conceptions of Maya, right? So as soon as we consider, oh, I have nothing to do with God. God is there, maybe he's there in the spiritual world. Let him enjoy with the gopis. Let me enjoy separately here. Sometimes people say that. Let him do his task. I will do my thing here. So as soon as we see that, so that is illusion. So thinking of our identity as independent of the Lord, that is illusion. Then second point Prabhupada said is the conception of considering the Lord as formless. That is illusion. Considering the Lord without form, that is illusion. So we already discussed in the previous verse how the Lord's form is also eternal. So if you consider the Lord is formless, that is illusion. Third point, Prabhupada says that considering that I am the Lord, that is also illusion. That is defeated in the previous verse also, right? So that's illusion. Fourth point is the false claim of the supreme independence by the jiva is actually illusion. We actually say, I am independent. I can do anything what I want. If I want, I can build this huge castle. I have the money. I am the Lord of all I survey. That is illusion. Right? That's the fourth thing. Then fifth point, Prabhupada says, the scientists, they deny the existence of the Lord. They may say, oh, yes, the sunshine and the sun energy, and there's so much nuclear fusion happening in the sun. They may appreciate all this, but all their study of the sun or study of like biology or the geography, if all of them is not connected with the original source, then that is all illusion. Okay. So if you see how, if you see the original scientists like Newton and Albert Einstein, Newton's main book, the Mathematica, I think I mentioned this before on this group. In that entire book, he talks of so many of the laws of physics, right? And he talks of all laws of gravity, all the different laws, but he says all this is for what? To gain an appreciation into the creation of the God. So he says, if people by reading all these laws actually gain an appreciation for God, then I feel my attempt of this book is actually successful. So even Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton. So Prabhupada is actually making a point. So yes, scientific development you can do. We are not against that. Technology, we are not against that. But as soon as we have technology detached from the service of the Lord, that is Maya. That is the problem. Right? So then even medical science, Prabhupada says, they may deny the existence of the soul. Or even the psychologist, Prabhupada said, we may study how the mind functions and the mind does this, and the psychologist may say, oh, the mind, this is how it functions. They may do all those studies. But if they are not using the studies to see how the mind can be controlled so that it can be engaged in Krishna service, it is just Maya. So everything, all these different aspects Prabhupada explains is actually Maya. Okay. Okay, so, and also Prabhupada concludes by saying that how Maya has these two potencies. What is that? We have discussed this earlier. Anyone remembers the two potencies of Maya?
The testing and the hiding.
What is it?
Testing and the hiding.
Testing and hiding. Okay. Yeah, so the word uses normally they say throwing and covering. But you have the right understanding also, because testing and hiding is also right in the meaning wise. So Prabhupada actually in one of these lectures he says, so this is called Maya. Just hear this. This is a very nice small paragraph I'm going to read from Prabhupada lecture. This is called Maya. Prakshe Patmika Shakti. Maybe someone can type this on the group. Prakshe Patmika Shakti. P-R-A-K-S-E-P-A-T-M-I-K-A. Prakshe Patmika Shakti. Covering. Avaran Natmika Shakti. So these two are kinds of energies of Maya. One is Avaranatmika, ignorance. One is living very condemned life. Still he's thinking, I am very happy. Right? How Prabhupada says, he gives the example of a pig. A pig eats stool, but still he can say, oh, this is the most delicious food that ever exists. Right? I am the best. Like Prabhupada gives the example of how Indra was cursed to be a pig. And when Brahma said, oh, Indra, you pig, you're actually the king of the heaven. He said, no, I am very happy. Right? So that is actually the Avaranatmika Shakti. I am very happy. We are all right. So that is Avaranatmika, covered. Real knowledge is covered. And another Shakti is Prakshe Patmika. Prakshe Patmika means that if anyone tries to get out of this, suppose our students are coming to Krishna consciousness, somebody is coming to us, Maya will dictate. Oh, why are you coming here? There's so many restrictions, so many rules and regulations. Better give it up. Why, yes, what is this nonsense? Give it up. Maya will come and say, why 16 rounds? Give it up. It's okay. See others, how they are enjoying life. They have so much time. They spend time on movies, they go outside, they do this. That is Maya's Prakshepatmika Shakti. Right? Why are you coming here? There are so many restrictions, so many rules and regulations. Better give it up. Right? This is called Prakshepatmika. Maya is dragging. Because the more one is simple, the more one is miscreant, the more one is the lowest of mankind. Maya will not allow, oh, why is this rascal here? He must suffer under me for more, sometimes more than he may be allowed. That is Maya's business. Thankless business. Right? So the second aspect of Maya is basically when we take up Krishna consciousness, then she actually tests us. Right? So that is the Prakshepatmika. So these are the two energies of the Lord. Okay. So this is text number 2. Now, the part that I did not explain here is the part about Yoga Maya. Right? Okay, so this is more from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. So we have already discussed Mahamaya, Yoga Maya. Right? So Mahamaya acts partly favorably and partly unfavorably. Right? We already talked about two energies of the Lord. So Mahamaya acts partly favorably and partly unfavorably. One may say, as practicing sadhakas, we may say, I want to be sincere in my path of bhakti, but then Maya actually pulls me, drags me down. Right? So partly favorably, partly unfavorably. But Yoga Maya acts only favorably. So Maya Shakti has two functions: Vidya for the liberated soul and Avidya for the conditioned soul. Okay. So he gives Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the example. He says example of Vidya. Vidya here, light. Okay, he uses the example of light. And he actually says, that let's say in a room, right? In a room, there was darkness initially, right? Let's say you are in an unknown place and there is darkness. Then what happens? Immediately there's fear. Oh, in darkness, maybe there's a scorpion here. Maybe there's a snake here. But do actually, okay, that fear is there, right? Fear of these things there. But as soon as light comes, then, oh, there is nothing, no fear, right? So he uses this example and says, similarly, so he actually says, similarly, the function of Vidya for the liberated jiva, he perceives knowledge and bliss in relation to the self, okay, and its related lamentation and illusion is not related to body, and hence it is not perceived. So what is actually here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur making the point? That when a conditioned jiva actually gets that light of vidya, right, then even though the body may be connected with lamentation and illusion, but just like as the light comes and one says, oh, now no longer there's fear of Scorpio, similarly that jiva will have no longer any experience of lamentation and illusion because the light as vidya has awakened in his consciousness. So that is one aspect of Maya. That's a vidya. Avidya is what? Because of darkness, a snake or a thief, though not existing, causes fear because of possible existence. They may not be there, but because of darkness, one is thinking, oh, maybe this is going to, maybe there's a snake here. Maybe a thief will come. Light has gone out, there's no power. Maybe the thieves will take advantage. The fear is there. So similarly, because of avidya, what happens? The jivas, they actually perceive the body, lamentation, confusion, all that appears to be in relationship to the self. But actually, there is no connection. So you see the points? Are you getting this point? The vidya and avidya in relationship to the self. So Maya, when it gives the light, then the body, illumination, the lamentation, everything one says, that has no connection with who I really am. Right? And when the avidya of Maya affects us, then we actually associate that lamentation, the bodily connection with ourselves. And you say, I am actually this body, I am suffering this disease, I have headache, I have stomach pain. But once the vidya comes, you say like, okay, that is external. The body is experiencing all this, but it has nothing to do with who I really am. So that way, Maya actually gives that more vidya and avidya. Both of these are functions of the mind. Okay, and then also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually he makes a point that bhakti, right? So that is pure bhakti, which is actually free of any material gunas, and that is bhakti, which is actually mixed with sattva guna. When we talk of bhakti mixed with sattva guna, that gives a realization of the Brahma Jyoti. And Prabhupada, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, until one comes up to the realization of even the Brahma Jyoti, one is, as long as one is below the state, he is under the influence of Mahamaya. It is only when one comes to the first stage is what? Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kankshati. That Brahma Bhuta stage is the stage when the jiva actually gets liberated from the influence of Mahamaya. Okay, so that's the first time when the conditioned jiva can get free from the liberation at the Brahma Bhuta stage. Okay, and then the aspect of Yoga Maya. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives different examples, and he says how Yoga Maya is also like the light is sometimes as light and sometimes as darkness. So it is showing and it is hiding things, right, for the jiva. So how does Yoga Maya actually do this? I mentioned one example last time. So first example he gives of Mother Yashoda. Right? So when Yoga Maya hides the power of Krishna, then Mother Yashoda comes and she says, oh, Krishna, it's morning time. Now you have to go to the forest. Let me dress you. And then she puts a dhoti around Krishna, or she puts a nice belt around Krishna. But then when Yoga Maya shows Krishna's power, then what happens? She ties all the ropes together. But even after tying all the ropes together, always two fingers too short. So that is Yoga Maya showing the power of Krishna and then hiding. Right? Another example, what we can think in terms of Yoga Maya, in terms of Mother Yashoda. Krishna eating dirt, right? So all of a sudden when Mother Yashoda sees in Krishna's mouth, she sees all the universes and everything. She sees herself inside Krishna's mouth. That is the manifestation of Yoga Maya showing. And then all of a sudden in a minute, it hides. And the Mother Yashoda is saying, what was that? Was that the influence of some demigods? But why would demigods influence me? I am just an ordinary, cowherd lady. Why would they influence me? And then that way, right? Then also Prashant Thakur gives the example of Brahmaji, how he saw the calves, and then all of a sudden, then he saw all the Vishnu forms, then again he saw the calves. So all these, then Arjun seeing the Vishwarupa and hiding that original Shamsundar form, and then after that, again hiding the Vishwarupa, showing the original Shamsundar form. Right? So all these are examples of how Mahamaya is actually giving the Vidya, the light, showing things and then hiding things, and how Yogamaya is also showing and hiding. Right? But Yogamaya is doing everything in a favorable way to assist Lord Krishna's pastime, to assist the rasa, but Mahamaya is actually bewildering the jivas and so on. Okay. Okay, and then Prabhupada in the purport, he actually talks about how we can get out of this Mahamaya, and he actually says that unless one has the real light of Krishna consciousness, and that real light can only be obtained when one actually receives the light from a person who is actually connected to the original source, who is Krishna, who is in that discipline session. Without that, one cannot be free from the influence of Mahamaya. So second part of the purport, Prabhupada just focuses on this aspect of the only way to come out of this darkness is actually the light coming from the Guru who is connected in Parampara, and it's a Guru who actually gives us knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and that way he actually enlivens the Jiva and takes him out of the influence of Mahamaya to actually promote him under the influence of Yogamaya. Okay. That is the second part of the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question.
Okay, let me just make one more point and I'll take questions, right? I'm just seeing what other point to make. Okay, so this is another point. Anyway, there are so many questions. So let me take the questions and I'll come back and explain a little bit more about this Maya aspect and we'll go to this. Go ahead, Vijaya Radhika Mati.
Originally, you mentioned that Mahamaya is partly favorable and unfavorable, and Yogamaya is only favorable, right? So maybe the example you said that favorable is like Yashoda Mai's example. It's also both favorable and unfavorable. Is it correct? Or I'm confusing?
Mahamaya is partly favorable, partly unfavorable. Why is that? One thing is we talked about two Shaktis, right? Avarnatmika and Prakshipatmika. So how is it unfavorable? Because even though we may be in a miserable condition, we think, oh, I am all good. Like, you go to a hospital and you're sitting in the waiting room and you ask someone comes, how are you doing? I am fine. If you're fine, why are you here in the hospital? So that is the covering potency of Maya. So that is actually unfavorable because that is keeping the jiva away from Krishna, right? But how is it favorable? When we actually take up devotional service, then Maya still actually says, why 16 rounds? It's okay. Today you can skip. You had a busy day, you can do tomorrow. So when actually Maya is acting like that on us, that is actually one way favorable. Why? Because Maya wants to purify our consciousness and wants to make us determined on our path of bhakti. She's actually testing us. When the teacher gives exams to the student may say, why exam? I don't want to take it. But only by the exam, the student is actually learning. Right? So those exams by Mahamaya is actually favorable. And the covering, that Avarnatmika, that is unfavorable, because that makes the jiva think, I am happy even if I'm in a pig's body. So is that okay? So that is Mahamaya. It is sometimes favorable, sometimes unfavorable. But Yogamaya is always favorable because that showing of the different, like either showing the Virat Purusha or for Mother Yashoda, all that is just to enhance the rasa between Krishna and his devotees, and hence Yogamaya is always favorable. Okay. Divinity.
Prabhu, in CC, it's in the first few verse chapters, it says that once the devotee, once your jiva turns towards Krishna, it comes under Devi Prakriti, which is like Yogamaya's influence, right? She is taken care by So then, for those jivas who are here, who are, are we like in the prakshepatmika shakti of Mahamaya, taking like, passing the exams, or we are under the care of like Yogamaya practically?
See, both of these are actually, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also makes the point that even the Mahamaya is actually, let me find that section, is actually the energy of Yogamaya, isn't it? See, Mahamaya is also actually is just a reflection of Yogamaya. So both of actually are actually Yogamaya, but it manifests as Mahamaya for the Jiva. So it is only one person actually, in that one aspect, but it's manifesting as Mahamaya for the conditioned Jiva. So depending on the sadhaka's state of consciousness at that particular moment, he can be either one of the energies. So let's say we are in Vrindavan. Why Vrindavan? Or we can say like, okay, right now we are really in deep consciousness of Krishna. We are really praying to Krishna from our heart, and we are really absorbed in Krishna, and like really like to the point we are chanting with so much like faith and devotion, right? That time we are actually under the influence of Yogamaya potency. Mahatma Nastu Mahampata, Devim Prakriti. So we get under the influence. But then after that, chanting, and then towards the end of the day, then we relax a little bit and we say, oh, let me see this, and then we get deviated from the path. Then immediately we come under the influence of Mahamaya. So it is not one or the other. Until we actually come to the stage where we are completely purified, we will be actually, switching between the influence of Mahamaya, whether it's Avarnatmika, Prakshepatmika, or Yogamaya. We'll be switching between this. But only when we are completely purified, where there's no question of us falling down, then we'll come directly under the influence of complete influence of Yogamaya potency. Yeah. Okay. Arundhati Mataji?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This explanation, what Divinita Leela Mataji asked, partially explains my question. And now, thank you for explaining that. That's depending on the level of consciousness of the sadhaka, Mahamaya and Yogamaya comes and goes depending on our level of consciousness. That's beautiful. So what is the level of Yashodamaya? I mean, like, she's a pure devotee, right? So she should be under the influence of Yogamaya always.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But just now you said when he was showing the universal form, she was under the influence of Yogamaya. But again, she cannot perform her task if she's under the Yogamaya. Then, like after the universal form was manifested and it was gone, then she falls into Mahamaya. I'm confused there.
No. Mahamaya does not act upon the associates of the Lord. It is only
pure devotees.
It is a Yogamaya which is actually. So see, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making the point that both. See, first of all, he says that the material Maya, the Mahamaya, it arises from the Yogamaya, and it is just a vibhuti or an expansion of Yogamaya. Mahamaya
Right.
is a vibhuti or expansion. So it is Yogamaya, it's just vibhuti or expansion. Okay. So pure devotee. So he's making the point because Mahamaya, we are seeing in this material world how it actually shows it has a Vidya and the Avidya component. Right? Favorable and unfavorable. Partly favorable.
That is on us, conditioned souls.
Yeah, that is Mahamaya. Right. The same quality is there in Yogamaya because it's Yogamaya potency. So Yogamaya is also showing hiding. And what is it showing and hiding? That is the different forms of Krishna. But that is completely Yogamaya. So Mother Yashoda, it was Yogamaya which actually arranged that Mother Yashoda saw the entire universal, universes in the mouth of Krishna. Right? Why was that? Because Krishna ate that, and he didn't want to be caught. So at that time, the Yogamaya said, "Okay, I have to bewilder Mother Yashoda, otherwise she will chastise Krishna." So she actually manifested all the universes. But that is all Yogamaya. That is all pastimes. That is all Leela of the Lord. It has nothing to do with Mahamaya. Right? It is all Leela just to enhance the rust between Mother Yashoda and.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So correct me if I'm wrong. So for Lord Krishna and pure devotees, only Yogamaya, like she shows up and then like hiding, and sometimes she, what did you say? You used two terms. She shows and she doesn't. Like what was the two terms you said? Maya
Sometimes
has two
she shows
energies.
a particular form, and then sometimes she hides a particular.
She doesn't show.
Yeah.
So when she's not there, there is no Mahamaya. Just Yogamaya, she shows up or she doesn't show up. That's it.
See, both of them, Mahamaya and Yogamaya, they have the feature of showing and hiding. Okay.
Right. But that part I
Yogamaya is
understood.
only for the pure devotees of the Lord, right? Where
It's
the
only Yogama.
hiding is the different forms of the Lord. Mahamaya, showing and hiding, is for the conditioned jivas.
Right. So for the pure souls, only Yogamaya shows or not, doesn't show. So when she doesn't show, Prabhu, then what is there? No Mahamaya at all for the pure devotees. Only Yogamaya show. So when she is not expressing it or not showing up anything, there is nothing. No Maya influence at all.
No, but
no Yogamaya at all.
even when Yogamaya is not showing, that is also Yogamaya's influence.
Right. Okay.
See, like the example is like for the gopis of Vrindavan, right? When Krishna left Vrindavan, Akrura came and Krishna left Vrindavan. Did Krishna leave Vrindavan?
No.
Vrindavan
Not really.
padam ekam na gacchati. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. But
Right.
for the gopis, they were thinking, oh, our Krishna has left Vrindavan. And hence they were crying tears of separation from Krishna. That is what Krishna, that form of Krishna is not shown to the gopis of Vrindavan. That is also Yogamaya's influence. Even though Yogamaya is not showing the form of Krishna, but that they are actually feeling, oh, Krishna has left us, and they're crying tears of separation. So that is also, so devotees are, whether it's showing or hiding, it is all yoga.
I got it, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, are we okay? I know this is philosophically dense. I think the next two verses will be a little bit less dense philosophically, but is it okay? So first verse and second verse, right? Now, why does Mahamaya even exist? Can someone answer this question?
Otherwise, the jivas will not be able to enjoy. Huh? They came here to enjoy.
Yeah, so that's the first point. As soon as we say free will, there has to be a place for the jiva to express the free will. And that is actually, that's why we come under the influence of Mahamaya. Right? So, yeah, so that's the point. And the other point is, how does the Mahamaya help us connect ourselves to Krishna? Right? So like how once a disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, why is Maya so strong? What was Prabhupada's answer? Maya is not so strong. Your purpose is, what was the exact words Prabhupada said? Your purpose is not strong. If your purpose is strong, then Maya's influence will not affect you. But because your purpose, your determination in bhakti is not strong, that's why you are feeling Maya is strong. Right? So Maya there is actually helping the jiva strengthen our purpose, right? So that we can actually connect ourselves to Krishna. So the purpose of Maya is actually divine, whether Mahamaya or Yogamaya. So Mahamaya's duty is to reveal the futility of everything separate from Krishna. Reveal the futility of everything separate from Krishna. Okay, it's just like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives this example. He says, just like you are in an exam, there's multiple choice questions, right? There are, let's say, 5 choices. Out of those 5, 4 are wrong and only 1 is correct, right? 4 are wrong, 1 is correct. But Maya's task is not so much that, okay, find the wrong one and find the other wrong one, find the other wrong one. No, Maya's task is, unless you find the right answer, Maya will give us so many different options, right? So sometimes in our spiritual life, we may be attracted to one thing and say, oh, please take away this attraction, please take away this attraction. And we develop that attachment to something else, not related to Krishna. So Maya is testing us, she's giving us all these different wrong options. And you say, oh, this wrong, oh, no, this wrong, no. Maya wants us to come to the right answer, and that is Krishna. So all the options that Maya is giving is actually giving us all those wrong choices that we have to finally come and say the right choice is actually Krishna. And hence Maya's task is a thankless job. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, so depends upon our intention, right?
Yeah, depends upon our purpose. So Maya is strong.
And how much degree, like our focus only for like 10%. For instance, like in this class, we focus only 10% or we focus 50 or 100% like that, right?
Yeah. How much we are determined in our purpose, to that extent,
Yes.
it is going to bewilder us. Yeah. Okay.
You also mentioned it as a favorable, the throwing, right? The Mahamaya's favorable is for throwing, because Bhagavatam class don't attend, like today skip, and testing our determination and making it strong.
Yes. Yeah. So she's that way she's actually also divine. She has a divine purpose. Her intention is divine because she is finally the energy of the Lord. Okay, everyone, okay? Text 1 and 2. So that is Sambandha Gyan. And if you just think about this, we understood about Krishna, his eternal nature, we have understood how the form, the qualities, everything is actually eternal, and how it is not Brahmajyoti, is just subordinate to the Lord. We already understood that. How does the Lord actually manifest in this material world? That also we actually understood, and how through the material elements we can actually understand the concept of Lord, right? Because Lord is manifested through his impersonal form in this material nature. All that Sambandha Gyan was text 1. Second is, how does the energies act? How does Yoga Maya act on the liberated jivas? How does Mahamaya act on the conditioned jivas? So that's how the Lord's energies are acting upon us. So second question of Brahma, how is the various spiritual and material energies working? So both of the Yoga Maya and Mahamaya answer is given. So that is all the Sambandha Gyan we need to know. One way, that is the entire Sambandha Gyan. Now is, what is the Prayojana and what is the Abhideya? Right? So we understood that we are conditioned jivas under the influence of Mahamaya, but we need to get promoted under the influence of Yoga Maya. How do we do that? Okay. So now text number, do we need a break? Or do we continue? Continue? Okay, continue. Yeah? Everyone okay? Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so 35. Go ahead.
Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu javacheshanu pravishtanya pravishtani tatateshu nateshvaham.
Oh, Brahma, please know that the universal elements enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter into the cosmos. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created, and at the same time, I'm outside of everything.
So, what was the question we are answering here? What are your activities in relation to the material and spiritual energies? Right. So, the Lord's activities are the point here. So, the answer to that, Krishna is telling Brahma that please know, he says, Yatha Mahanti Bhutani, like all the Mahanti Bhutani, all the Mahabhuta. What is that? Earth, water, air, fire, ether, all the material elements, right? Bhuteshu Ucha Avasheshu, in minute or gigantic, Anu, Pravishtanti, entered, Apravishanti, not entered, right? So it is just as the universal elements in minute and in gigantic form enter into the cosmos and at the same time do not enter. Similarly, I myself also exist within everything created. At the same time, I am outside of everything. Right? Okay, so let's discuss this. So first point is, what does it mean that all the great elements, the Panchabhuta, they enter into body of all manifested entities at the same time they are differently situated? Who can explain this point? We just discussed the creation aspect, right? So if you take the element of earth, is earth element present in our body? Yeah, earth is there, right? Yeah. Earth is there, water is there, everything is there in the body. But if you actually see, when Karundaksha Vishnu, he actually created the Pradhan and Mahatattva. Those elements of earth, they actually form, if you see the universal shell, in the universal shell, there is the earth, water, fire, air, ether, and they are 10 times bigger than the other layer, and they are still present in the universal form, which was actually a manifestation from Karundaksha Vishnu. So one way, they are the universal shell, at the same time they have entered into every element of this material world. Everyone understands this point of how the material elements are actually outside, yet they have actually entered everything. Now, the key point here, that is just an example, but the real point is, similarly, it is Krishna who's actually entered into everything, and yet he is actually outside. So, where have we read? Okay, I'll give you this example. This is one point I really liked, right? So, how do we understand that Krishna is everything here? Because we see that everything is an energy of Krishna. Right? Everything is an energy. There's nothing outside of Krishna, right? How it actually says, the Krishna in his form as Paramatma, Shirodaksha Vishnu, he enters into every atom. Actually, he's present in between every atom. Everywhere, Vishnu is actually present. There's nothing outside of Vishnu. Yet, at the same time, what? Nirasta Kuhakam, Satyam Param Dhimai. He is eternally situated where? In his abode as Goloka Vrindavan. Right? First 1.1.1 of Bhagavatam makes the point. He's always eternally situated. So he's there, yet he's here. Right? So the Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he actually makes this point. I've heard this, that he actually says, see, that is the concept of Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Right? And someone may say, compare that to Sarvam Vasudeva Iti. Sarvam Vasudeva Iti. Right? When we say Sarvam Vasudeva Iti, then everything is Vasudeva. But is that true? No. That's not complete understanding. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, in the sense that yes, everything is the energy of the Lord, yet Vasudeva is actually there separately. But not everything is actually Vasudeva. So one example that I was going to say, this example of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he actually says, when we know in the Prahlad Narsimha episode, right? So Hiranyakashipu, he asked, where is your God? You keep talking about your God, where is he? And what did Prahlad say? He's everywhere. He's actually the source of your power. You know, he's the source of your power. That means what? Even the power of Hiranyakashipu is actually finally Krishna's power. There's nothing outside of Krishna, right? And then what did Hiranyakashipu challenge Prahlad? Is he here in this pillar? Right? Is he here in this pillar? And what does Prahlad answer? Yes, he's there in this pillar. Right? And then Hiranyakashipu took his fist and he actually punched the pillar. And the pillar burst, and then Shri Narsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai, he appeared. Right? Now, if you see, Prahlad said, is he here in this pillar? Yes. Everything, Krishna is all pervasive. He's everywhere. Yet, when Narsimhadev actually appeared, did Prahlad actually say, oh, he's everywhere? Narsimhadev is there, pillar is there. I'll go and I'll garland the pillar. Why should I garland Narsimhadev? He's everywhere. No, he still went and garlanded Lord Narsimhadev. So though Prahlad actually said, my Lord is everywhere, yet the Narsimhadev, that form is eternal. That form is the one that we worship. Right? So that difference is there. So the Lord is all pervasive, yet he is actually one who is actually pure. Right? Yeah, very nice reference. Bhagavad Gita 6:30. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost in me. Now, who actually develops such kind of vision? Where one actually sees the Lord everywhere, and yet he actually sees that that's the original Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, what was his vision? He was saying, yes, the Lord is everywhere. He's the source of your power also. Right? Father, he's the source of your power. He was seeing the Lord everywhere, yet he knew, my Lord is actually eternally present in his abode. He will appear. He will appear. So who actually develops that kind of vision? It is only a Prema Bhakta. So third verse is actually giving what? Prayojana. Prayojana is what? Prema Bhakti. A person develops that kind of vision where he sees the Lord both within and without everything. What was Prabhupada's vision? He saw a flatbed truck and he said, perfect, first Rath Yatra in US. Get the flatbed truck, we'll have Jagannath there and we'll do the first Rath Yatra. Everything he was seeing, okay, how he was seeing the presence of Krishna and how it can be used in Krishna's presence. That is the vision of a pure devotee. That is, so Prabhupada in his purport, you'll see he emphasizes a lot on this aspect of love of God. He quotes the verse, Premanjana Churito Bhakti Vilochanena, Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti, from Brahma Samhita it says. And what does this verse say? Only unto those pure devotees whose eyes are anointed, you have to put the anointment of love of God to them, then the Lord is actually visible everywhere. Right? They always observe the Lord everywhere and also within their hearts. To that Govinda, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Okay, so that is the main point here. So the Lord is present everywhere. Prabhupada also quotes Ekopi aso Rachaitam Jagadanda Koti in the Brahma Samhita 535, how Brahma is praying, O Govinda, I worship the primal Lord Govinda, who by one of his plenary portions enters into the existence of every universe and every particle of the atoms, and thus unlimitedly manifests as infinite energy all over the material creation. I'm just reading from the purport, right? And then Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis, say how Govinda, who by the expansion of his internal potency of transcendental existence, knowledge and bliss, enjoys in his own and expanded form, simultaneously enters into every atom of the creation. So to actually develop that vision of seeing the Lord without and within is actually the pure bhakti. That is the goal, right? So the third question is, how is the Lord's activities in relation to the material and the spiritual? The Lord enters into all the material worlds. In every atom, the Lord is present, and yet he is actually performing his activities in the spiritual abode. Okay? So that is the answer. Okay, so third one is easier, and Prabhupada, oh yeah, one beautiful thing Prabhupada actually says, how do the pure devotees see the Lord, see the pastimes? Like there's this famous story of Rupa Goswami, right? He was just sitting, and in his vision, he was actually seeing how Radha and Krishna were actually having the Leela together. Right? And then particularly he saw that pastime where Radharani was actually plucking flowers for Krishna. So Krishna climbed on top of the branch, and then he actually put his feet on the branch. So the branch came down, and then Radharani could pluck the flowers. And then because Krishna is so naughty, all of a sudden he put his feet up, and then the branch went up, and then Radharani was hanging on the branch. You know. And then Rupa Goswami was seeing this whole pastime in meditation, and then externally he was laughing, you know, seeing that bliss. And then there's a whole story of how someone got offended by seeing the laugh and everything. But the point here is that Prabhupada actually says that the pure devotees, they have a spiritual television in their heart, by which they see the pastimes of the Lord. So you see in the purport, Prabhupada says, in the paragraph starting with, therefore, although he is present in every atom, if you scroll down, there's a paragraph starting with therefore, although, in between that purport, he says, in other words, as the universal elements are both within and without, similarly, the Lord's name, form, quality, pastimes, entourage, etc., as they are described in the revealed scriptures or as performed in Vaikuntha, far, far beyond this material cosmic manifestation, are factually being televised in the heart of the devotee. Are factually being televised. There's a television in the heart of the pure devotees. And the pastimes of the Lord, which is though happening far, far in Vaikuntha Lok, happens in the heart of a devotee. Right? The man with a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand, although by material science one can see things far away by means of television. Factually, the spiritually developed person is able to have the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. That is the mystery of knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Right? So, a pure devotee, a premi bhakta, he has the television of the kingdom of God always reflected within his heart. Right? So which verse can we think about here, where it talks about how the devotees have all the pastimes going on within their heart? And I'm thinking of one verse. The one verse that comes to my mind is that verse, Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas, Tirthi Bhuta Swayam Vibhu. That the devotees themselves are actually Tirtha. Why? Because the pastimes of the Lord are manifested in the core of the heart. All the pastime, Radha Krishna Leela, is happening in the heart of a devotee. Hence, wherever the devotee goes, he is a Tirtha. He is actually a holy place because all the pastimes are manifested right there. Right? So this is the goal of a Krishna consciousness, is love of God and prema bhakti. Right? Okay, text number 3. So what is the goal? The goal is love of God, to see Krishna both within and without. Right? Any comments on this third Chatushloki?
Which I was thinking that not only in the heart of the devotees during meditation, but when we are listening to Krishna Katha also from the mouth of the pure devotees, then also we get this. It's like a television. Huh? We are. I was listening to just a short Krishna Katha from Guru Maharaj's mouth, and he was telling that how Krishna was stealing butter, and then he saw his reflection in the pillar, and Krishna said, "Shh, don't tell anyone." Huh? And then he put the butter on the pillar also. See, I'm giving you butter. So, and we were all laughing, huh? Because
and we see that, that to your point, that when actually like our Goswamis, they're writing all these books on the pastimes of the Lord. How do they know all the final detail? Because the television is there in the core of the heart, giving all these final details. Like I have this experience also with, if you read His Holiness Shivram Swami Maharaj's books, to the depth of his description, like the book on Damodar Janani, on Damodar Leela, he describes the entire palace of Nanda Maharaj, where this room is, where this is happening, and how this is happening, where Krishna is running from this room to so much in detail. It's like just amazing. Like, this is for all our Goswamis, everyone, they have that spiritual television, and that is actually being manifested through their mouth and revealed to all of us.
Yes, Babaji, so much details. Even the name of the daughter of the florist is Narmada, who brings flowers. So many details.
Thank you. Any other points?
Oh, this is like, I was thinking that how wonderfully this particular paragraph that you just read from the purport of Srila Prabhupada is exactly meaning that Sante Sada Hridaya Shubhilapayanti.
Oh, what's the last
statement?
part? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
The Santa Sadeva Hridaya Shubhilapayanti, how the Lord, because his pastimes, let it be television, is not different than him. So that means he is in the heart of the, he is performing his pastime. So his body is Dham, where the Lord is performing his pastime. So that is why when he goes, Prabhupada coming to Tompkins Square Park and making Bhavananda Prabhu, I think Ramakrishna Maharaj, see the New York Times Square as Vrindavan. It is mentioned in one of, like he got a glimpse. How is that possible? How can New York turn into Vrindavan? Because Prabhupada's television just popped out. It's like,
that's actually a manifestation of the Dham also. It says that the Dham is manifested. One is how we have Vrindavan Dham here, close to Delhi. But another manifestation of the Dham is from the heart of a devotee.
Okay.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so take a break and then come back and we'll do the last of Chatushloki. Right? Okay, just take 4 minutes and then we'll do the last. So, see, the first two are philosophical dens. Third one is, I think you can appreciate that. And then fourth one is what is left. We did Prajana, we did Sadhana, Sambandha. The only thing is left is Abhideya. So that is the last one. That will end our Chatushloki. Okay, so take 4 minutes.
A huge purport of the next.
It's very huge purport.
7 pages.
The Chatushloki is almost like 30 pages for 4 shlokas. So, okay, let's come back and we'll continue. Thank you so much. श्रील भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So let's continue. Our last of the Shloki. Okay. So let's go ahead with the Sanskrit.
Etavat eva jigyasyam tatra jigyasunatmanaha anvaya vyatirikabhyam yat syat sarvata sarvada. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, will certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly.
So what is this answering the last point? What was Brahma's last question? He said, yes, you have given me this task of creation, right? But let me actually do this task without any... First, he actually said, let me do this task being an instrument of yours, and let me never be overcome with false ego and pride, right? So how can one actually do the activities in this material world without actually being, proud, without being acting out of false ego, ahankara, vibhudatma, right? Without acting out of ahankar and just acting as an instrument of the Lord. So that is this verse right here. Hare Krishna, everyone. Is everyone back to continue? Okay, everyone. Hare Krishna. Okay, so everyone, I hope you heard what I just said, that this is 36 is basically answering the question of Brahmaji is actually asking that how I can do this task of creation as an instrument without false ego and pride. And in relationship to that, we are actually reading this verse, which is actually the sadhana bhakti, right? So first he says, etavat eva jigyasam, right? Certainly up to this point. Up to which point? Up to the point where we actually see Krishna within and without, the previous verse, until we up to the point of prema bhakti. Up to the point of prema bhakti, eva jigyasam, one has to inquire. Tattva jigyasuna, that absolute truth has to be inquired by the student, right? And anvaya vyatirekabhya, both directly and indirectly, right? Both directly and indirectly, one should inquire up to the point of prema bhakti, right? Yat syat sarvatra sarvada, and that aspect of abhideya should be performed in all space and time and in all circumstances. Sarvatra sarvada. Anyone? Okay, 5 bonus points. If anyone can point out the verse where we read Sarvatra Sarvada. Okay, maybe you can find it and you can post on the group later on, right? So basically the point in this verse, so this is basically talking about sadhana bhakti. So if you see in the purport, Prabhupada is actually saying that everyone, he actually says, anyone who is actually developed in consciousness will make some kind of inquiry, will make inquiries, right? So, Prabhupada, we discussed this point earlier, that everyone is asking questions. Like even the birds, they get up in the morning, they're chirping, they're asking questions. Where is food? Where is my shelter? Where is opposite sex? They're the same questions. And human beings, they're a little bit more civilized. They get up in the morning and they say, Bhav kya hai? Prabhupada says, Bhav kya hai? What is the cost of this? What is the share market price today? That is their main questions, right? But those who are really developed in consciousness should actually make inquiries, and they should make inquiries up to the point of up to this point, that is up to the point of prema bhakti, right? So this bhakti yoga, right, which is actually explained in this verse, is the ultimate stage of all inquiries, or is the highest objective for the inquisitive. Those who are inquisitive, athato brahma jigyasa. Vedanta Sutra starts off with a person should actually athato brahma jigyasa, should inquire about the absolute. But that inquiry should not just stop at Brahman realization. It should go all the way to Prema Bhakti. Okay. So, so that's the first point. And and Prabhupada actually in this purport, he says, and that answer up to the stage of Prema Bhakti can be obtained in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam is actually giving us the answer up to the highest stage of Prema Bhakti. You can actually get that Prema Bhakti from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. And then Prabhupada actually says how so that's the first point, about the inquiries and how Bhakti Yoga is the highest objective for the inquisitive. The second point Prabhupada makes in the purport is actually, he says, in general, people do not know what is the real goal of life. Na te vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu, durasaya bahir akta manina. So this is a very famous quoted, Prabhupada often quotes in his purport. Na te, in his lectures, na te vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. People do not know what is their real self-interest. People do not know what is the real goal of life, right? And hence they are inquiring about so many things which are not related to Vishnu. Right? But the real inquiry should actually be towards Atma Tattvam, and then that should lead to Prema Bhakti. Okay, and how does this process of inquiry actually start? What is the first step? Rupa Goswami says in devotional service in Bhakti Yoga. What is the first step? Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Yoga. What is it? Sorry, I heard few voices. I couldn't hear Mati, sorry.
Prabhu, Shraddha and Sadhu Sangha.
Yeah, okay, Shraddha that's the 9 stages, but the first point that Rupa Goswami. Yeah, that's the definition of devotional service. But the first point.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, okay, good point. But the first, Ado Guru Vashraya. First is to actually find a spiritual master and inquire from him. Right? When we talk of inquiry, it has to be done from a bona fide spiritual master. Therefore, Ado Guru Vashraya. We should find the spiritual master. So Prabhupada in his purport, he talks about this. And he says, yes, we are talking of inquiries, but the inquiry should be made in front of a bona fide spiritual master who is expert in the science of Bhakti Yoga, who is in disciplic succession. So Prabhupada is listing all these qualities. And one should actually inquire, search out for the absolute with great perseverance or great labor. The inquiry should be done. So Bhakti Yoga means it has to be done with Utsahan, Nishaya, Dhairya. It should be done with confidence, with determination, with enthusiasm, with patience. Right? So Prabhupada is basically explaining that process of Bhakti Yoga in this verse. And then he actually says, the Guru is one who can actually give us that knowledge of this process of Bhakti Yoga. And he is the one who will actually take us to the highest stage of Prema Bhakti. And in that way, the Guru is greater than Krishna. Why? Because in that sense, Prabhupada says he's greater than the Lord in sense that he can deliver the Lord by his personally realized experience. Guru is greater than Krishna. Why? Because he can give Krishna. Krishna does not give himself so easily, right? But the Guru is even more merciful because he actually, Krishna se tomara, Krishna di te paro, tumhara shakati ache. Oh Guru, you have the power to give me Krishna. Ami tu kangala. Krishna, Krishna boli, dhaitava, pache, pache. I'm running behind you, crying out, Krishna, Krishna. Right? So, and then Prabhupada actually makes the point that that the entire Bhagavad Gita is actually directed to answer this inquiry, what is actually being referred in this purport, in this verse, an inquiry into the Bhakti Yoga leading unto Prema Bhakti. And Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita is one of the most brilliant stars in the horizon of the spiritual sky. So when you go out to distribute Bhagavad Gita, you can say, Bhagavad Gita is one of the most brilliant stars in the horizon of the spiritual sky. So can you imagine spiritual sky, one of the most brilliant stars, that is the Bhagavad Gita. And the essence of the Bhagavad Gita concludes with the point of 1861, 1865, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Mad Yaji Mam Namaskuru, right? We become a devotee of Krishna, worship Krishna. Then Prabhupada talks also of Varnashram. So basically the entire purport focus is on Bhakti Yoga. So hence the first point is about inquiry, right? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Second point, finding a bona fide spiritual master. How a spiritual master is even greater than God, than Krishna, because he can deliver Krishna. Third point is about Bhagavad Gita, how that gives the basic understanding of who we are and what is the process of Bhakti Yoga, concluding with Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto. Then fourth point in the purport, Prabhupada says, what is Varnashram Dharma? And he says, Varnashram Dharma is also finally meant to come to the state of understanding Krishna. What is a good verse for this? Atha Pumbir Dvija Shesha Varnashramasa Vivasa Swanistasya Dharmasya Samsiddhit Haritoshana. Even the Varnashram is meant for what? Samsiddhit Haritoshana. And then what does that other verse say? 1 to 9, Dharma Swanasthita Pumsam Vishwaksena Kathasuya Na Utpada Yadi Radim Shama Eva Kevalam. So even if you're doing Varnashram, but it's not leading to attraction to hear about Krishna, then it is Shama Eva Kevalam. It is useless labor. Right? So that is Varnashram. So how Varnashram is also bringing one to the point of Bhakti. Right? That is the first section of the purpose. So Prabhupada actually talks about this Bhakti Yoga, how Varnashram leads to Bhakti, how Bhakti means taking shelter of bona fide spiritual master, Bhagavad Gita, understanding Bhagavad Gita, and so on. The second part of the purport focuses on this word, Sarvatra Sarvada. Right? So in that, Prabhupada actually, the whole long purport of so many quotes is actually to establish this point of Sarvatra Sarvada, which is actually the principle of Bhakti Yoga. That means, one, it is accepted by all classes of philosophers. Okay? Bhakti Yoga is accepted by all classes of philosophers. Right? And then there's a reference for that. Second one, all revealed scriptures come to the point of Bhakti Yoga. Second point. Third point, all classes of human beings, whether there's the lowest to the highest, the most sinful to the most qualified Brahmana. For everyone, what is it? Bhakti Yoga. Right? Who is the example of the most sinful person who got devotion to Krishna? There's so many references. Mrigadhi the hunter. Right? And previously, what verse we read? Hirata, what is the verse? Hirata Pun. No, this was. What did that prove? First line?
Pulinda
Pulkasha.
Pulinda, Andhra, Kasha.
So all those, even the lowest class of people, they are qualified to take up devotional service. So for all people, all classes of human beings, this is Bhakti Yoga is the process. Then third, then what number was it? Fourth. All species of life. For all species of life, Bhakti Yoga is there. An example?
Gajendra.
Garuda, Hanuman.
Yes, Garuda, Hanuman, Gajendra, excellent. So all species of life, right? Then fifth point, for all the senses, even simply the mind, right? It will get satisfaction only in Bhakti Yoga. Whether a sense of seeing, sense of touching, sense of hearing, sense of smelling, or even the mind, everything will get satisfaction only in Bhakti Yoga. Right? That is 5. Number 6, all occupations. Yat karosi, yat jasasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat tapasi kaunteya, tat kurusva mad arpanam. Do it for Krishna. So all activities are meant to be done in Bhakti Yoga. Right? That's point number 6. Point number 7, in all yugas, even during annihilation, It is only Bhakti Yoga. Okay. So all yugas we know, Krishna comes in every yuga, he establishes the same principle of bhakti. But even during annihilation, anyone can think of story, even during annihilation, there's actually devotional service.
During Matsya Avatar, Manu was...
Matsya Avatar, exactly. And during Matsya Avatar in the 6th canto, there's description. And even during annihilation, Krishna has actually appeared as a Matsya just for his devotee. Right? So even during annihilation, it's all there. Then all stages of life. What is a good example? All stages of life. So we can start from the youngest, and we can say
In the womb of the mother.
Parikshit Maharaj in the womb,
Parikshit Maharaj. Yeah.
Prahlad Maharaj in the womb, right? Then Prahlad Maharaj 5 years old, Dhruva Maharaj 5 years
Dhruva
old,
Maharaj.
and then even at the elderly age. Example, Ajamil at the deathbed. What is the process for? Right? So all ages, all stages of life, it's a bhakti. So hence the conclusion is devotional service. And then the next point, Prabhupada says, all other processes are void without bhakti. Whether karma yoga, jnana yoga, karma kanda, any process you take, it is actually void if it is without bhakti. And hence, in all circumstances, in all situations, sarvatra sarvada, it is only devotional service, which is the abhideya of the entire Shastra. Okay, so that is devotional service. So that is text number 4. Right, so this is the 4 Chatushloki. We have discussed about Sambandha Gyan, we have discussed about Prayojana Gyan, and Abhideya Gyan. And Abhideya Gyan, why does Prabhupada actually quotes all these different references? Even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives elaborate commentary to quote all the different, just to establish the point that devotional service is the highest Abhideya. That is the process which is actually the conclusion of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is to be engaged in devotional service. And one should not stop until one comes to a stage of Prema Bhakti, which is verse number 3. Okay. Okay, so that is the Chatushloki. So everyone is okay on Chatushloki? You have understanding? You got an appreciation of how the Chatushloki is the nutshell of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything is there in Chatushloki. It's just like in a seed form. Everything is there in Chatushloki. And it's just the expansion of this Chatushloki is the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so
Hare Krishna.
yes, go ahead.
As about the Sarvatra Sarvada, is it the chapter 2?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, 2 to 36. Tasmat Sarvatmana Rajan Hari Sarvatra Sarvada Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyo Bhagwan Brina. 2 to 36. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, Ratnavika, is there a question?
Yes, how does this Chatushloki verse 4 answer the question of Brahma that please give me your mercy for and that I will do my service without pride and bondage?
So basically the point here is Brahma, you do the task of creation while engaging in the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Do it as Bhakti Yoga. Like how Krishna is telling Arjun, you fight as Nimitta Matra Bhavya Sachi. And then what they say? Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yuddhacha. So what is Krishna telling Arjun? Yes, you do your fighting. Do it as an instrument, but do it always being conscious of Krishna. And that is the principle of Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna is telling Brahma that Brahma, if you do this task of creation, always being conscious of me, then you will never be, never fall into the ahankara, false pride, or you will have the pride about that I am the creator. But we do it as an instrument in the mood of Bhakti Yoga. That is the main principle.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. In the Subodhini, it is also given the answer on page 184 about only by bhakti can one overcome bondage, pride, and lethargy.
Yes, yes, that's the answer. Yes, only by bhakti one can overcome these things. Yes, Matan, thank you.
Prabhuji, we in the same in the same Bhagavatam we have mentioned of that how Brahmaji gets bewildered towards his daughter, and how third canto has explains the whole thing. Then he's doing this creation on Bhakti Yoga still.
So that's a very good question. Actually, in the next few verses, actually the rest of the chapter is very quick. It's short purports and not so much. I was thinking we can complete it, but now we are out of time. But it's in that, Vishal Thakur makes the point that what was described of Brahma being illusioned by his own daughter, that Vak episode, that was actually the previous day of Brahma. It was not the day of Brahma where Krishna spoke the Chatushloki to Brahma. Because here, Krishna, previously we read that verse, right? Where Brahma says, "Oh, I will never be bewildered." You learned that verse, right? And you have to, what's the starting? And you know the verse I'm talking about. When Brahma says, "I will never speak anything which is not true. I will never be bewildered in my mind." How is Brahma saying all this? Because he's actually heard this Chatushloki Bhagavatam and he's received this realization from Krishna about his form and about his glories. So that Vak episode was the previous Kalpa. It was not in this day of Brahma. And then the episode about Brahma, Vimohan Leela, one may say Brahma got Vimohan, bewildered. But that Vishwanatha Thakur says that is just more of a pastime rather than actual Brahma's illusion, falling into illusion. That is more of a pastime to establish the glories of the Lord. So, next question.
Regarding this Brahma Vimohan Lila, I've just heard that it is possible to have control over yourself, but it is impossible to control over Krishna. Krishna can bewilder even if whatever position you might be in.
Yes, that's a good point. And also, there's, when Krishna had this entire pastime, there was a whole deeper point to it. Because all the mothers wanted to have Krishna as their son, wanted to feed Krishna, and then hence Krishna actually became the son of all the gopis, the elderly gopis of Vrindavan. So that was a deeper purpose behind it. Okay. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. As I said, the rest of the chapter is basically conclusion. Actually, next verse, Krishna actually says how Brahma should actually meditate on these Chatushloki with full concentration, with full attention. In that way, he will never be bewildered. So they are philosophically very deep, and Brahma may think, how will I understand this Chatushloki? Krishna says, no. You focus on this, always be conscious of this, and meditate on this meaning of the Chatushloki with extreme concentration. And in that way, you will never be bewildered. You will always be on the right path. And then after instructing this, so it's beautiful. Like I mentioned this point last time, we will actually make the same point here. That how Bhagavatam, if you see, is giving the description of one day of Brahma. One day of Brahma. So actually, after this Chatushloki is spoken, then what are the previous chapters we read? Brahma Narada Samvad. That Brahma Narada Samvad happened after Brahma heard this Chatushloki. So the rest of the chapter talks about that it was after this that Brahma actually he gave Narada the instructions in 2.5, 2.6, and 2.7 of the Bhagavatam. Right? Those three chapters. Right? And then also Narada giving the knowledge to Vyasadeva. Brahma gave the knowledge to Narada. Narada gave the same knowledge to Vyasadeva. So everything is starting from the Chatushloki. And last time I made this point that how Bhagavad Gita Chatushloki is placed in the point where Krishna says 10.1, I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge. And after Chatushloki, what does Arjun say? Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Param. This is the conclusion. So in between is the Chatushloki. So similarly, this in terms of the context, the Chatushloki is placed in such a place that it is the starting of the day of Brahma, and entire Bhagavatam is actually that day of Brahma. So it is at that crucial point that now Brahma is enlightened. Now we'll describe about his Swayambhuva Manu and then his descendants, and then going all the way to Surya Vamsha, and then lunar Chandra Vamsha, and then Chandra Vamsha coming to Lord Shri Krishna, and so on. That is the entire Bhagavatam now. Okay, so we'll stop here. Any comments, questions, realizations? Yes.
In Subodhini, they have a specific section, 4 seed verses at the very end,
Yes.
where they have more explanations.
Yes, yes. It's good you pointed that out. If you see towards the end of the Subodhini, that
Page 2, more explanations.
what is the page number?
211, 211.
Yeah, 200. Yes. Thank you, Mati. I was going to mention that actually. Okay, so 211 has more reference. And basically, actually, if you see that, he's actually quoting a lot from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, even in the explanation. So you'll see many of the points that I actually made from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is there. And then he also quotes Jiva Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah, he quotes actually other acharyas also. Yeah. Okay, so I think I've covered all of these points. Yeah, that's a good reference, Martin. So you can go back and he has quotes from different Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Jiva Goswami. Different.
I always wondered why so much of influence is on Brahman. I mean, like impersonal, throughout Bhagavatam, it is trying to establish that. Throughout Chaitanya Charitamrita, throughout all Vedas, Upanishads, it's so much influence is trying to prove that the Lord is a person. But why come to that point? Like, where did it start from?
Because it starts, like how Prabhupada explains, it starts off from the point that, in general, if you see a jiva who is actually aspiring to get free from this material, because, jiva experience, anyone who's intelligent, he'll say, this world is a place of misery. And why are the miseries? Because there is attraction to so many objects in this world, and that is a real bondage. So the natural conclusion of someone who is actually just based on speculative knowledge is that, there are forms, there are varieties, there's attraction, hence the spiritual should be a negation of all this. And hence one will actually come to the conclusion that, yes, in the spiritual world, there has to be no variety, no forms, no objects, and it just has to be the oneness, the peaceful, where there's no material contamination. And to that point, the Upanishads encourage such a thinker, and entire Upanishads states what? Oh yes, naiti, yes, not this form, just the absolute, In Upanishads, even they actually explain the absolute as nirguna, right? Nirguna means no gunas, and yes, you have to rise above that, and that actually encourages those who are actually in that line, and hence the point is actually made that the only way. And one can come to the conclusion of the absolute Brahman through one's speculative knowledge. But to understand the personality of Godhead, which is Sa Rahasyam, it has to be revealed by a pure devotee of the Lord. And that revelation is very, very rare. That revelation is very rare, and hence the words are used Sa Rahasyam. That to actually understand that Krishna is a person, he has a beautiful form, is actually eternal. That is actually very, very, sorry, I got distracted. That is actually very, how many people, devotees themselves are so rare, and to actually receive that information is even more rare. So in general, there's this whole concept of impersonalism, which is actually pervaded everyone, because you say, material world problems, hence, finally, I just want to be in a state, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But actually, there is other dimension.
Ashanti,
anxiety. The God distributes so many books. That's our goal. Go out, do this seva. And that is actually the real life starts at that point. So that's why there's so much on
this bottom-up approach, right? Like you see what is here, Krishna cannot be this opposite,
So that is normally
the problems here is opposite.
So Prabhupada in one of his purpose, actually in Chatushloki, he actually says, negation of the material nature does not give knowledge of transcendence. Negation of this material world does not give the knowledge of transcendence. Has to be received form a person who is transcendental.
It's like I've heard this example, Prabhu, like, if you don't give salt in the sabzi, it is not going to give you the idea of sugar. Negation of salt does not give you the knowledge of sugar.
Yeah.
It's baseless.
Addition of salt will make the sabji just bland, but it will not give you the taste of gulab jamun. Yes. Okay.
Right.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. So yeah, and also like if you consider, because even in our consciousness, that impersonalism is actually there. When we chant the holy name of Krishna, do we actually think that Krishna is a person? I'm calling his name. It is because we are also contaminated by the philosophy of impersonalism. We chant Krishna's name and say, oh yes, it is, yeah, we know it is spiritual, but we don't, this is Krishna himself, he's a person. We are calling that person. So all this, whenever we see that defeat of impersonalism, we can say that yes, it is defeating the philosophy of impersonalism, but at the same time, it is actually defeating the impersonalism in our heart. Krishna is a person. We have a relationship with Krishna. We have an exchange with Krishna. He's a loving friend. He's Surit. He's our best friend, actually. So that impersonalism to personalism. Okay, so any final points? Otherwise, we'll stop here. Any realizations anyone would like to share?
I really like the point that you said that Guru is greater than the Lord in the sense that he can deliver us Krishna. He can give us Krishna.
Guru gives us
a transparent medium to give us Krishna.
Yes. Krishna does not give himself so easily, but Guru is so kind that he will deliver Krishna to us. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Vaikuntha Lokas, though they are far, far beyond the material cosmic manifestation, they are being televised in the hearts of pure devotees, all pastimes. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, huh? So beautiful.
Right. Right.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. So thank you all so much. So I hope you got a good appreciation of this Chatushloki. We did only 4 verses today, but this is the nutshell of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. All the knowledge is actually emanating from this 4 shloka of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So the rest of the chapter is very fast. So next time we'll cover the rest and then we'll do chapter 10. Chapter 10 is a little bit long. Like towards the end, you have like again Virat Rupa is actually explained. So it talks of Sarga, Visarga, and the 10 aspects of Srimad Bhagavatam. So at least like half of the chapter we'll cover next time, and we'll finish this chapter. Okay.
Hare Krishna, I want one point to be explained. I was thinking like when Prahlad Maharaj, when Hiranyakashipu asks, where is the Lord? He says, he's everywhere. So at that point, Lord is everywhere. And when he actually appears, he is present and not present, that example, right? When he appears in person, he's not going and garlanding the pillar, but he goes and garlands Narasimhadev. So at that point, when he actually sees the Lord, I think I lost it. I had a confusion, but I will.
So don't confuse the points of Yoga Maya showing different forms and hiding different forms with this example. That Yoga Maya showing, we gave Yashoda Maya's example to explain that point. Here we are making the point that yes, the Lord is everywhere, yet he is an individual person in his abode. He descends for his pure devotees. That's the point. He's both within and without. Right?
Okay. Thank you.
There's like 2 separate examples to explain the point. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you all so much. Chatushloki Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, all devotees. Dandavat pranams.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Babuji. Have a very nice Krishna conscious day, everyone. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.